Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something deeply personal. It's this almost entirely hidden habit of our minds that so many of us do, but honestly, almost nobody talks about out loud. We're talking about those vivid, incredibly intricate imaginary worlds we constantly build inside our heads. If you've ever felt like your mind has this secret, alternate life of its own, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're unpacking escaping the imaginary world. And my goal here is to help us all understand exactly why our brains do this and how we can gently guide ourselves back to the present moment. Okay, let's jump right into it with a question that might feel a little bit like I'm reading your mind here. Have you ever won a fake argument? I mean, really think about it. You're lying in bed at night, staring blankly at the ceiling, or maybe you're just aggressively shampooing your hair in the shower, and suddenly, boom, you are gone. You slip entirely into an alternate reality, having this full, intensely heated conversation that has literally never happened in real life. You know exactly the scenarios I'm talking about. Maybe you are finally winning that argument from 3 years ago, delivering just the absolute perfect, devastating comeback. Or maybe you're practicing an incredible award acceptance speech that, let's be real, you're probably never going to give. Or perhaps you're confronting people who have hurt you in the past, finally getting that closure you were denied. Or sometimes it's just living out a completely alternate life where people finally recognize how awesome you are. What's totally wild is just how real these scenarios feel, right? You've built this entire world with sharp details and genuine emotions. And then you snap back to reality. And there's usually this strange, overwhelming mix of relief, but also kind of a deep disappointment. Because for a few minutes, that fake world felt way better than actual life. Which brings us to section 1, the imaginary world. Now, before we go any further, I want to pause right here and speak directly to you. If you do this, you are not broken. You're not weak, you're not cowardly, and you are absolutely not just running away from reality because you lack courage. This isn't just you aimlessly getting lost in thought. It's actually a highly complex process, and understanding it is the very first step to making sure it doesn't just completely take over your life. So let's move to section 2, the brain's prediction machine. To really understand why we do this, we've got to look at the science. Your brain is honestly simply doing the exact job it was built for. It is constantly churning, asking, what if this goes wrong? What if I actually win this time? What if I say this instead? At its core, your brain is a remarkable prediction machine. It's working overtime literally every single second, trying to figure out the future and prepare you for it. And there's actually an official psychological term for this whole thing: counterfactual thinking. Basically, it's the psychological process of creating alternate realities to understand and prepare for different outcomes. Your brain is building these simulations, these alternate worlds where things are different, maybe a little better, maybe way worse. But here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. Your brain is not doing this to punish you. It's doing this to prepare you. Think of it kind of like a pilot practicing in a flight simulator, right? A pilot doesn't just jump into a jumbo jet and hope for the best. They sit in a safe, controlled simulator to practice emergency landings, turbulence, system failures, the whole shebang. And that is exactly what your brain is doing. It's safely rehearsing tricky situations, difficult conversations, potential conflicts, even future successes long before they ever happen in the real world. But that brings us to section 3, the illusion of control. Because here's the catch. While a flight simulator is incredibly useful for a pilot, it becomes pretty dangerous if that pilot decides to just live in the simulator and never actually fly the real plane. And that is the danger here. It's when this mental simulator stops being a helpful tool for preparation and instead turns into a permanent hiding place. Just look at the stark difference between your inner world and the outer world. In real life, it's messy. You can't control how people react. You don't know the outcomes. And hardest of all, you definitely cannot rewind time to change the past. But in your inner world, oh man, you are the writer, the director, and the absolute hero. You always say the perfect words, people finally understand you, you never, ever lose. If you're someone who often feels misunderstood, ignored, or maybe a bit powerless in real life, this perfectly controlled inner sanctuary becomes incredibly addictive. It becomes this totally safe place where you finally feel important. But there is a heavy cost to holding on to this illusion of control, and it's this: reality becomes uncomfortable. The more time you spend living in your perfectly scripted imagination, the wider the gap becomes between your inner world and your outer world. Have you ever started getting genuinely mad at real people in your life for things they only said in your imaginary arguments? It happens. You start finding actual, real life deeply disappointing just because the complex humans around you refuse to follow the perfect script you wrote for them in your head. So, section 4, preparation versus avoidance. How do we actually stop this cycle? Well, the secret is you don't fight it, you understand it. If we want to break the spell of the imaginary world, we have to start observing our own habits with a sense of genuine curiosity rather than judgment. And it really all boils down to asking yourself this one absolutely crucial question. Is this preparing me or protecting me? Seriously, I want you to memorize this question. The next time you catch yourself completely lost in one of those mental loops, staring blankly at the wall, just pause and ask yourself this. Let's break down exactly what the difference is. Okay, so if you're imagining a difficult conversation you need to have with your boss, and then you actually go to work and have that conversation, that is preparation. That's totally healthy emotional processing. But if you live out that exact same scenario 100 times in your imagination, feeling all the triumph and validation in your head, but you never actually take the real-world step, that is avoidance. Understanding that specific distinction is the key to getting your life back. Which leads us to Section 5, returning to reality. So how do we actually break the loop when we find ourselves trapped in it? I'm going to give you some highly practical, actionable steps that you can use the very next time you start daydreaming a shower argument. Let's slow down and walk through these. Step 1, write it down. When you catch yourself in a loop, physically write the scenario out. A lot of the time, your brain is just desperately trying to process a lingering emotion. When you give that emotion words on a piece of paper, the mental loop instantly quiets down. Step 2, ask that core question we just discussed. Am I preparing or avoiding? Step 3, physically ground yourself. Don't let your mind become your whole existence in that moment. Feel your feet pressing firmly against the floor. Actually notice the physical sensation of your breath. And step 4, look at something real in your environment. Anchor yourself right back into the physical space you are actually sitting in. As we wrap up, I really want to leave you with this beautiful thought. Your brain is like a river. The thoughts, the imaginary scenarios, those alternate realities, they're just the flow of the water. And you can't stop a river from flowing. But here's the secret. You don't have to jump in and get swept away by the current every single time. You have the power to just sit on the riverbank, observe the thoughts flowing by, understand them, and then stand up and walk back to your real life. Because your real life is waiting, messy but real. Listen, those imaginary worlds might have offered you comfort. They might have protected you from loneliness when you really needed it. And hey, some moments in there might have felt truly beautiful, but they were only ever rehearsals. They were never meant to be a replacement for actual living. Your real life is still waiting for you out here. Yes, it's a bit messy, it's uncertain, it's definitely imperfect, but it is real. And honestly, I think that's more than enough. So to end this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. What beautiful, messy, real-world moment are you missing out on right now simply because you are too busy rehearsing it in your head? Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.